Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Back to Stomp This Way.
This is Stomp This Way?
This is Stomp This Way, last I checked. Although we're reviewing a Frankenstein movie this week. Frankenstein Conquers the World, as the U.S. title goes.
Oh, yeah.
Or the original Japanese title, which is Frankenstein versus the Subterranean Monster.
Oh, okay.
Or the international title, which is probably most commonly known by Frankenstein versus Baragon.
All right.
Or the German title, Frankenstein, the Fight with the Monkey Face. Did I leave a word off the end of that?
The Fright with the Monkey Face.
The Fright with the Monkey Face. No, I don't know what that means, but anyway.
It's a little weird.
Maybe the Fright is Baragon and it has a monkey face, kind of. I don't really know.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, it is what it is.
I guess those are some weird titles.
It's the first time that the German title actually had a legitimate excuse to put Frankenstein
in it.
Yeah. Some quick making of facts of this movie. Toho had made 2 previous attempts to make Frankenstein movies in Frankenstein versus the Human Vapor, which I think was some kind of sequel to the H-Man or something. And then Frankenstein versus Godzilla, which ended up turning into King Kong versus Godzilla. Neither of those movies ever made to the production process.
Happens.
This was co-produced by Henry G. Saperstein, who also co-produced Invasion of Astro Monster and War of the Gargantuas. He claims to have provided 50% of the funding for this movie.
Oh, good for him.
On Saperstein's urging, a scene was written and filmed in which Frankenstein fought the giant octopus from King Kong vs. Godzilla after he defeats Baragon, but in the end the scene was rejected for both cuts of the film. We should have watched it. It's on that DVD. But oh well. Anyway, when asked why he didn't use a real horse for the infamous scene where Baragon attacks the little farm, Subaraya allegedly stated using a model horse was more fun. Ifukube scored the main title of the film with a solo bass flute that at the time was the only one of its kind in use in Japan.
Good for him.
Yeah. But anyway, some box office. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
It was released on August 8th, 1965 in Japan, and then released in theaters on July 8th, 1966 in the United States. In an article for some Los Angeles newspaper, I forgot, Nick Adams stated that the budget was equivalent to $5 million US. However, this is likely overstated because I highly doubt that they actually had a $5 million budget. That'd have been astronomical for a movie like this in that time. Nick Adams was probably drunk off his butt when he did that interview. And it made 93 million yen at the Japanese box office.
So I assume it turned a decent profit.
It probably made a decent profit. But anyway, we're gonna listen to a trailer, and then we're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk about our thoughts
after we read off the cast and crew and read a plot summary.
Yeah, after we all do all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end of this episode, Andrew and I have, for the first time, watched all 26 episodes of Zone Fighter. And we're going to give a brief little summary of our thoughts on the show. So that'll be kind of fun. Anyway, see you in a bit.
In the ocean's unfathomable depths, a gigantic, man-like creature appears. Fiery depths of the earth comes a prehistoric mastodon of destruction. Never before has the screen known such heart-stopping terror. starring Nick Adams.
Well, I feel he's very important from a scientific point of view. I'd have to cut off a leg or an arm.
Doctors, I won't let you conduct this test.
Frankenstein, with the strength of 1,000 men. And every man's need for affection that makes him a willing captive.
The chain hurts you.
The new scoop of the century. The horrifying touch of a severed hand with a life of its own. Terrifying force of a monster that dwarfs man's tallest structures.
All right, we're back.
Are we?
Yes, we are. And this movie was made by our classic cast of characters.
The Dream Team.
Directed by Ishiro Honda, written by Takashi Kimura, music by Akira Ifukube, and effects by Eiji Tsuburaya.
The Dream Team.
And of course produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka. Starring Nick Adams, Tadao Takashima, Kumi Mizuno, Yoshio Tsuchiya, Yoshifumi Tajima, Koji Furuhata as Frankenstein, and Haruo Nakajima as Baragon.
Yeah.
So that's the plot.
After finding and taking in a wild boy, Doctors Bowen, Tagami, and Kawaji discover that he is the result of Frankenstein's heart being exposed to radiation during the bombing of Hiroshima. At first, the boy is gentle and develops a bond with Dr. Tagami, but as he grows larger, he becomes more difficult to control. One night, upset by the bright lights reporters shine on him, he escapes and runs into the forest around Mount Fuji. Meanwhile, a burrowing monster dubbed Baragon is causing destruction around the country that the JSDF is blaming on Frankenstein. Our trio of scientists go into the forest hunting for the mutant boy, hoping to find him before the military does, but Baragon shows up and nearly kills Dr. Tagami before Frankenstein intervenes and saves her. After a hard-fought battle, Frankenstein kills Baragon, only to be swallowed up by a cave-in. In the final scene, Kawaji speculates that Frankenstein will live forever as credits roll.
All right. So, Dylan, when I told you we were going to be watching a movie about a giant Frankenstein monster, was this what you expected?
Well, I knew that it had Baragon in it, so I was expecting
some rubber suit monster action.
Frankenstein to fight a Baragon. I was not incorrect.
You're not incorrect.
I did not know that it was going to not happen until the last 10 minutes of a 90-minute long movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a 90-minute movie, which, I mean, is not... I think is about perfect for, you know, like a kaiju creature feature. But, yeah, I will say that this movie, despite that 90-minute runtime, is still kind of tedious in the middle.
A little slow.
Actually,
Pacing's a little
Yeah, I do like some of the... I think this movie has some heart. I like the fact that he starts out as like this little wild boy that, you know, is
just misunderstood,
eating like wild animals on the street, and then he kind of develops this bond with Kumi Mizuno's character. And, you know, I feel bad for him, you know, when Nick Adams grabs that stool and like breaks it over his back, and because all he wanted was the little necklace. You know, I think that's a good character moment. I think they actually do a pretty good job with giving a character to this Frankenstein monster, this version of Frankenstein's monster. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I actually kind of care for him in the movie. He's probably the best character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, you know, we always talk about, you know, these movies struggle with defining characters. We more or less stick to our trio of main characters in this
pretty
movie.
much. We have a pretty strong central trio of characters.
And it's made up of three of you know, the better actors we see in these movies. Nick Adams, of course, of Invasion of Astro Monster fame. We watched the original Japanese cut of this film, so we didn't get to listen to his voice. But despite that, I think his charisma comes through his performance, and I like him in this movie. Of course, Tadao Takashima, who probably most famously was in King Kong vs. Godzilla. He's been in several other movies too. He's really good in it. And then Kimi Mizuno, of course, is always great.
Namikawa herself.
Namikawa. Yeah, it's a reuniting of Nick Adams and Kimi Mizuno, and they got good chemistry in this movie, I think, and it's all good.
Might have had something to do with the fact that they were having an affair, but other than
it happens a lot in movie sets. But no, so I like the actors we got. Despite that, though, I think this movie does get a little tedious. We spend a lot of time with that trio of characters, either sitting around talking about what to do with Frankenstein, or the police sitting around talking about what to do with Frankenstein.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of action.
There's really not. We see some. I think. What did I say? I think Baragon, like he attacks this oil refinery at 23 minutes into the movie,
and we kind of see him.
You get a quick glimpse of him, but we don't get a real good. I don't think he shows up again. We don't get a real good shot of him until almost an hour into the movie. I think I wrote down 56 minutes before we get a real good shot of him. And then Frankenstein and Baragon don't meet until about 15 minutes to go in the movie. And
more than that, honestly.
I think it was right about 14 minutes to go in the movie when he and they actually meet when they go into the forest, because at some point Tadao Takashima's character decides that he agrees with the military and they need to kill Frankenstein, which I actually kind of like the moment where and it ends up Frankenstein has to save him, and he returns him to the car, which is kind of a nice moment. But yeah,
he's just a misunderstood monster.
Kimi Mizuno, she has her moment like all the women in all these old Japanese movies where she sees the monster and passes out or whatever, so Frankenstein has to save her. And then where the final fight's on, this final fight is, I think it's fun.
It's fun. It definitely takes your rubber-suited wrestling to, legitimate rubber-suited wrestling.
Legitimate wrestling, although only one of them's in a rubber suit.
That's true.
But some legitimate wrestling bouts. I think it's kind of fun. It is a bit cheesy at times, but I enjoy it.
I like it. The final battle's the most entertaining part of the movie.
Yeah. But, for a lot of these movies we were talking about, the final fight, especially in these Godzilla movies, lasts 30, 40 minutes.
Especially these newer ones that we're watching. That we have a 100-minute long movie, and the last 30 to 40 minutes of it is monster action.
Yeah, this only goes on for about 10 minutes or so, give or take, which is kind of short. A surprising lack of rubber-suited monster fighting in this movie,
Surprising lack of action in this film.
Which I understand. I mean, they were trying to... I think this movie is more about Frankenstein than it is about Baragon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They just, I guess, felt like they needed a monster for Frankenstein to fight, so they just kind of created this Baragon character, and which we have seen Baragon before. He made basically a cameo in Destroy All Monsters. He's in briefly in a couple shots. I thought we would watch this movie this week because his first major role in the Godzilla movie will be next week in GMK. So exciting times there for our little red-ish friend. But anyway. But yeah, so overall this movie, I like the actors in it, but
I think all the actors do a pretty good job.
I
like that we do focus on a central group of characters, a more centralized focus for characters in this movie compared to some movies that we do watch.
Yeah. But I like that they have some strife between them when Tadao Takashima decides that he wants to kill the monster. And
it's kind of nice that we kind of have this, we think he's kind of a villain, but he's really kind of a sympathetic kind of monster. You kind of side with him by the time it's all said and done.
I think in the American edit, if I remember correctly, there's a couple of extra scenes edited in that makes him seem a little more aggressive than he is in the Japanese cut. But I like the sympathetic Frankenstein. I think it's actually, like I said, I think he's the best character in this movie, actually. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie has some heart. I think they do a good job of making you feel sorry for Frankenstein and caring for Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think it does get kind of plotting in the middle.
Yeah, the pacing kind of sucks. It drags on for a long time there after the very beginning of the movie.
It could use some more.
Intercut action in there somewhere. I mean, we kind of have small intercut scenes of stuff going on with, Baragon destroying the oil rigs or whatever. And
or eating chickens.
Or eating chickens or something like that. But it's
just funny.
They're very quick little scenes that don't really feed the appetite that you're craving.
That's true.
But
that being said. You ready to move on to creature design?
Creature design.
So let's start with the Frankenstein. So it's
he's a large humanoid guy.
Obviously, it's a Japanese actor. Although it's kind of funny at the beginning, they say he's a Caucasian boy, and I'm like, nah, it's not. It's a Japanese actor in makeup. Pretty. I mean, pretty decent makeup, I think. I think they get their point across. I mean, it's no, like...
Kind of make his face look
classic Frankenstein.
No, well, not with, like, those bolts coming out of his
Yeah.
neck and stuff like that. But for the most part, he
Got a huge
looks
forehead.
like a giant creature guy. He's like a giant humanoid figure.
Misshapen.
But he's got a deformed face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it gets their point across good enough. And his changing outfit. You know, I had a problem with the fact that his clothes still fit him even when he's like 30 feet tall or whatever. But I guess they do kind of shrink on him, and then he changes to like a caveman outfit by the end of the movie.
Yeah, and when he escapes, he's already a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
He had clothes on that fit him anyway. So.
Yeah, okay, I'll roll with it. Not that I guess I should be looking for logic flaws in a movie like this, but it is what it is. And then, of course, Baragon.
Baragon?
He looks interesting.
He reminds me a lot of Angus.
Yeah, kind of.
Not as spiky on his back, and
He doesn't have spikes.
He has one singular horn that comes out of his nose.
Yeah, this giant.
And he has floppy ears that hang off the back of his head.
He has a red heat beam.
Yeah, he does.
And he burrows underground.
He does. He does do that.
Although he obviously, I mean, he does.
He's kind of ugly though.
He does move on all fours sometime, and they try to hide the fact that Haruo Nakajima is crawling on his hands and knees. But a lot of the time, especially in that final fight, he just stands up on his back legs. They were just like, screw it. But, it is what it is. Ready to move on to effects.
Yeah.
So, I think hit miss. They had money. And because Frankenstein and Baragon are not as big as their usual monsters, they had to build some really big
model sets,
which I think look really impressive with the trees or the
model. The model work in this movie is really good.
Yeah,
definitely. Especially I think they did a really good job capturing the scale of Frankenstein's monster when he's walking around the forest and stuff like that with the trees, and when he's standing next to buildings and stuff like that. Looks really good.
Yeah, I think they did a really great job. Super Honest team with that matting. There's quite a bit of it. It's hit and miss. Some shots are pretty good. Some shots are pretty bad. Especially the shots like in the bright daylight are bad. But
they're a little rough. I'll give them credit. The matting when they're matting Frankenstein's monster with the small like normal sized people.
Yeah.
Looks pretty decent most of the time. It looks really bad when Frankenstein's monster and Baragon are fighting next to the fire.
And then
at the end of the movie, it looks terrible.
Or the scene where Tadeo Takashima is throwing like bombs in the distance.
Yeah, that looks bad.
That looks pretty bad. Yeah, there were some rough shots. There's a shot where like Frankenstein made a little like trap for a hog, and then a tank fell in it, and they put they do that the mortal sin, and they put a little plastic man in the top of the tank, which the tank looks fine, but the little man doesn't. But anytime they try to do fake wild animals, it looks
bad.
It looks
absolutely
horrible.
atrocious. First of all, we have this wild hog, which looks terrible as it is, and then we have a matting shot of it charging at people, and it's like. I mean, it looks like a giant monster in that shot. It's blown way out of proportion. It looks terrible. And then we have a scene.
The horse scene.
The infamous horse scene.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, it's so bad.
I don't know what was going through his head.
Tsuburaya kind of, I think, did it on purpose. He wanted to kind of, like, make it more fun and for kids to enjoy it or whatever. He didn't want to show, like, a gruesome horse death, but still. It looks rough.
It looks like a toy being thrown around by a kind of rubber suit.
Yeah. It looks bad. But I think as a whole, you can tell that they had some money to do the effects, with especially the models and stuff. And I think, and I do like some of the shots of the final battle when they're like Frankenstein and Baragon are bathed in the red light of the fire. I think look kind of cool. But yeah, I mean when they're matted directly onto it, it looks rough. But it is what it is.
Happens to the best of us.
But that being said,
the score,
of course, by Ifukube. Now by this point we've either heard these pieces recycled or versions of them.
Some sort of variation of
it. By this point. Some of them are original to this movie, others aren't. But it's an Ifukube score. I like it.
It's still good. Frankenstein's theme is essentially just Rodin's theme.
Yeah, it's a
very
variation
similar.
on Rodin's theme. Rodin's theme. We hear Military March. We've heard several times.
Multiple times.
But it's still...
It's still fun.
Brings excitement to the movie, I think.
Makes it enjoyable.
I
like the little theme that plays when he's like walking up and he looks over the hill at the village or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah. So, Ifukube, good job as always.
Good job.
Are y'all ready for some final thoughts on this
Let's
movie?
do it. It's going to be a short episode.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
we still
yeah.
got to talk about Zone Fighter.
Zone Fighter.
Zone Fighter. Dylan's leaving.
Super dash.
Anyway, Andrew,
Andrew?
you ready?
Well,
Well, it's not a bad movie. It's slow in parts.
Yeah.
Most parts. The beginning's good. Madding is hit or miss
yeah.
in this movie. And it deserves a C.
Let's see. What do you think, Dylan?
A C.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think this movie suffers from not having enough action in it,
Yeah.
and the pacing is poor.
Yeah.
It definitely grinds to a halt after those first few minutes where we kind of, introduce what's going on,
Yeah.
but then it slows down a lot with a lot of, oh, what do we got to do? What are we going to do? Oh, okay, or we're going to do this? No, we're not going to do that. Let's do this. No, we shouldn't do that. That's not right. That's just wrong of us. A lot of that for about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the end is really entertaining. I do appreciate that we do try to focus on a more central group of characters than a lot of the movies that we watch. They get bogged down with, 20 different characters that we're trying to follow around. You're like, who? But it is nice, and it's nice the kind of conflict that they have in him, and they're kind of, having a moral dilemma of what they should do about this. He's basically a human being. Well, should we kill him or not?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice, but at the same time, it gets bogged down. Creatures look good. I like the way Frankenstein looks. He's a giant man with a deformed face. I think the makeup work on him looks really good. They did a good job, pulling out the effect that they wanted. Baragon.
Mm-hmm.
He's all right. The effects are definitely hit and miss. Sometimes more miss than hit. I think they did a really good job with the model work, and they did a really good job with the scale on the models and stuff like that. And some of the matting's decent, but a lot of the matting can be pretty rough. And the score is as good as always from Ifukube. So I mean, it's a middle of the road movie. I'll give it a C as well.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you guys. This movie actually does grab your attention at the front. I think the way they actually incorporate the real events of Hiroshima into it is kind of shocking. Not something they usually do in a movie with this kind of tone. But yeah, it does get kind of bogged down in all the what are we going to do about Frankenstein now that he's escaped stuff. I think this movie does have heart. Like I said, I do care about the character of Frankenstein. I think they actually do a pretty good job of setting him up as a sympathetic figure. Baragon is not the greatest adversary ever made for one of these movies, but he's not bad either. I kind of enjoy the way he's incorporated at times. And then, the ending is kind of funny in these movies how, like, when they want both monsters to disappear, there's usually some kind of convenient cave-in or underground volcano or something to get rid of both the monsters. But I enjoyed the final fight up until that point. I think it's kind of fun. And, I mean, it is cheesy and all that, but it is fun to watch, I think, and just all the literal wrestling moves they do at time and all that stuff. And I like the core group of actors we got in this movie, and I think they do a pretty good job with their roles that they're given to do and everything. And it's only 90 minutes. It's not that
quick,
painful.
short, and mostly painless.
Painless. And like I said, I think they did a really good job with the model work. Because the monsters were smaller, they had an excuse to make these models really big and detailed, and I think they do a great job. Matting, yeah, it's a little hit and miss, but I think they get the job done for the most part. I just wish they would have not done the fake animals. That really cheeses up this movie when it didn't need to be. I mean, the movie's about a giant Frankenstein, so I mean, it's going to be cheesy, but you know what I mean. I'm going to give it a C+. I do enjoy parts of this movie quite a bit, even if it's not a greatly put together movie and does have a lot of bad pacing issues. But that being said, let's talk about one quick bit of news before we get into our Zone Fighter mini review. Godzilla vs. Kong got an official rating from the MP. I guess it's called the MPA now.
Yeah, it's the Motion Picture Association now.
Now it's the MPAA, which is dumb, but whatever. It's PG-13 for brief language and creature violence. Or
like we didn't know that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's like not a shock at all, but I guess it's news. I guess it means that they're
ever gonna get to see that movie anytime soon.
I guess that means they submitted a pretty close to complete cut to the MPA to show them off what they got.
I guess so. Are we gonna get a trailer?
Surely soon, I would think.
Is this movie gonna come out in November?
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
Is anything gonna come out the rest of this year?
Well, AMC just made a Facebook post. Was it?
Yeah, they just tweeted and put a post out on Facebook like yesterday. They're counting on Tenet coming out in 6 weeks. They said it's happening, boys.
It's happening one way or the other. One way or another.
Stop.
Okay. Sorry.
And Mulan's supposed to come out on the 24th.
Yeah, the next week after that.
Hadn't been pushed back yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got to see a couple of quote-unquote new releases.
Kind of.
This last
one of them technically says it came out in 2019.
It came out at a film festival, but this was technically its U.S. debut.
And one of them for sure, its release was yesterday. We saw a movie called Becky.
And a movie called
Kevin James.
Yeah, and a movie called The Wretched. With nobody famous in it.
Nope.
And they were both about as mediocre as you'd expect.
They were both very generic horror movies.
Yes, but anyway, we're not here to talk about those. No. We want to talk about Zone Fighter. Now, so Zone Fighter, of course, if you follow Godzilla very much, you probably have heard of it. It is a 1970s Toho ripoff of Ultraman. It ran for 26 episodes, and Godzilla did make several guest appearances on it. And just in general, it is definitely a lower quality version of Ultraman. Like, they literally could have called it like something like Ultraman Zone, and I would not have questioned if it was part of the Ultraman universe. No. I mean, it is such a blatant ripoff. He even has a belt that changes from blue to red when his energy gets low, just like Ultraman's color timer on his chest. And I mean, it is such a ripoff. But you know, I just feel like the production values in general are lower. Like the editing is more choppy. The plots are not as fun and creative. The fight scenes are not as well choreographed. The lighting's not as good. The cinematography in general is not as good. Although there's a lot of talented people involved. Ishiro Honda directed a lot of the episodes. Jun Fukuda directed a lot of the episodes. Koichi Kawakita did the effects for a lot of the episodes. Nakano also did the effects for several of the episodes. A lot of Toho's talented people worked on it. But it didn't always show through. No. I mean, there were some episodes that were better than others, obviously.
You know, I'm sure my thought process, Subaraya Productions, that's what they did.
Yeah.
That was their thing. They made tokusatsu
TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Toho was
just trying to capitalize.
They're like, people like this, we should do this. But in reality, the majority of their funds went to creating films, Godzilla, giant monster movies, a lot of Akira Kurosawa movies. I'm sure his were quite expensive when he made 4-hour-long movies a lot. But
I mean, this was the 70s, so this was when the movie industry in Japan took a big hit, especially special effects movies. This is around the time we were getting movies like Godzilla vs. Megalon and stuff like that, But, I mean, I will say this. If you really enjoy Ultraman, I think you can have at least some fun with this show.
Yeah.
I mean, when Godzilla, literally at times shows up out of nowhere. They'll literally, it was so funny. They would literally say, like, out of nowhere, they'd be like, call Godzilla! And Godzilla would literally just pop up, like, out of nowhere. And then it was just kind of funny. And it is fun to see Godzilla show up and just beat up on some monsters every once in a while. And like I said, I think one of their problems was that they had the same these evil alien race, and they were the villains in every episode. Mm-hmm. And I think they really limited themselves plot wise because the aliens had to be involved in every evil plot. And I mean, they just weren't as fun and creative, and the editing and everything, it was just lower quality than what Ultraman is. And on top of the fact that it's just a complete blatant ripoff of Ultraman in every sense of the word. If Subaraya Pictures wasn't like a sister company or a partner company with Toho, they'd have been sued for, every dime they had. But it is, it's hard to find because it never got an official US release. I found it on a website where they had some fans that subbed it. So I'm grateful to those people. Mm-hmm. And the quality was pretty decent, and I casted it from my phone to my TV so we could watch it on the TV. And it was decent quality. I'm glad that I finally got to see it. It was one of the last official things that Godzilla has appeared in that I hadn't got to see yet. So, Gigan and Ghidorah also make some appearances in it. Mm-hmm. Interesting. But anyway, if you can find it, it's fine. It's fine, I guess. Like I said, if you really enjoy Ultraman, I think you'll at least have some passing enjoyment of Zone Fighter. If you don't like Ultraman, you're definitely not gonna like Zone Fighter.
No, you're not.
I think that's That's the kind of the measuring stick you need to go by. But anyway, enough of that, I think. What is coming up next?
See, next week we're doing GMK.
Yep.
And then War of the
Godzilla,
Gargantuas.
Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Followed by War of the Gargantuas, which is a pseudo-sequel. I say the word, I use the term pseudo-sequel. Very loose sequel to the film we just reviewed here today.
And then after that is what?
Is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Followed by
A movie.
The Mist, I believe.
Oh, yeah?
He's delving into the world of Stephen King. Followed by Tokyo SOS. Followed by Gareth Edwards' first film, Monsters. Followed by Final Wars. Followed by the sequel to Monsters, Monsters Dark Continent, which I have not seen. Followed by Gareth Edwards' Godzilla movie, Godzilla.
Followed by something. Followed by Shin Godzilla.
Followed by Attack on Titan Part 1. Followed by Shin Godzilla. Followed by Attack on Titan Part 2. Followed by the first anime movie.
But hey, guess what you can do? There's a special place you can go. You can find all that information instead of us listing it all off for forever and a day. Andrew, why don't you tell them what it is?
It's a website you can go to called. You can find it called Stomps This Way. Not Stomps.
Called Stomps This Way's website, which is found at the following web address.
What's the web address, Andrew?
Well, that's the easy thing. That's www.stompthisway.podbean.com.
Thank you for that. If you want to follow us on social medias, we're up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're at Stomp This Way on all those. So make sure you give us a like or a follow and tell your friends about us.
That's right. And if you want to contact us directly, you can contact us at stompthisway1954@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And if you just love listening to our content, we also have a YouTube channel.
We do have a YouTube channel, DNA Productions, not the one with the monkey.
No. Where Dylan and I review non-monster related films.
Currently, we are getting ready to release an episode over Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, The Dark Knight.
That's right.
And then we will go back and we're going to review all of the Indiana Jones films, followed by the animated Mulan, possibly, if it still
comes out July 24th. And then we'll, of course, review Mulan 2020.
Mulan.
Starring some woman I don't know, but it has Donnie Yen and Jet Li in it.
That's the important thing.
That's the important thing.
But hopefully we get to get back into theaters soon, so you guys can check that out and get some actual new releases.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that's it for this week.
I think that is. So don't forget to join us for the big episode next week over GMK. It's definitely a fan favorite, I feel like. Definitely one of my favorites. And we'll see you then. As always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in the next one.